So today I've decided to do my review of the Logitech G Pro Superlight. This is really more so of a comparison between these top three mice because the G Pro Superlight is my favorite, but it's also the most expensive between the three. And the Model O wireless I do feel like is a good value. Obviously, you just want to make sure that you get a really good copy, of course. So the Razer Viper is also the heaviest of the two, but I do feel like it also gives you a lot of value for the price range because of what Razer throws in the box at the same price as the G Pro Superlight. So between the different weights of the mouse, we have the G Pro Superlight coming in at about 60 grams. We have the Model O wireless coming in at about 70 grams. And then we have the Viper Ultimate coming in at about 77 grams. So the weird part about this is the G Pro Superlight is the largest of the three. This one is the biggest and for me the most comfortable, especially if you have medium to large size hands. I feel like the G Pro Superlight is probably going to be the most comfortable if you're looking for a larger mouse. The Model O wireless is right in the middle where it's very similar to the G Pro, but the hump in the back on the G Pro is just a little bit taller than the hump in the middle of the Model O wireless. And then we have the Viper Ultimate, which is slightly smaller, very similar in shape to the Model O wireless, but it does feel a little bit smaller in the hand. So with the three mice, you will have similar grips, but they won't be the same. And I will say that for uniformity, I feel like the G Pro Superlight is probably going to be the most comfortable if you're looking for a bigger mouse. But if you have smaller hands, but you're not necessarily looking for a small mouse, or you're just looking for a really good wireless mouse, and you don't mind it weighing just a little bit more, the Viper Ultimate could be very good for you as well. Now, in terms of the sensors between the three, we have Razer's Focus Plus sensor, we have Logitech's Hero sensor here, and then we have the glorious BAM sensor. I can't tell the difference between any of these three sensors because honestly speaking, they're all top tier sensors in their own right. And there is not really much difference at all in gameplay that I can tell 100% based on the sensor. So that's not really something that I feel like you should choose your mouse between this comparison strictly based on the sensor. So I would kind of consider it a tie between all three of them. It's kind of irrelevant. When it comes to the mouse clicks, we have a couple of different switches here. So we have the Razer V2 optical switches, which I think are the clear winner in terms of these switches. They both feel and sound the best. I'm around 20 mils in both the Logitech G Pro Superlight and the Model O wireless. I like them in both mice, but they feel and sound different. They don't feel and sound the same. It's kind of something to be expected too, because like if you have different mouse shell, each mouse has its own acoustics and whatnot. I don't really feel like the clicks are really comparable between the three. Now, between these three mice, I feel like the G Pro Superlight has the easiest and lightest to use scroll wheel, with the Model O wireless coming in next, and then the Viper Ultimate coming in last. And compared to that, the Viper Ultimate is going to be the most stiff, and it does feel stiff too. That's definitely the word that I would describe it as. It's not horrible, like where you can't press it more than once in quick succession, and it's not necessarily the stiffest scroll wheel I've ever used before. It's usable for sure, but it's not the lightest or easiest to depress, where I would put the Glorious somewhere right in the middle, where I would say it's firm, but I wouldn't call it stiff, but it's not exactly light either. Where the G Pro Superlight, I would say, is a light actuation for the scroll wheel. The side buttons on each I feel like are all pretty decent as well. They feel very similar. They don't feel exactly the same, but I do feel like the tactility between all three of them is very good. So the G Pro Superlight, the Model O wireless, and the Razer Viper Ultimate, I would say that the Viper Ultimate has the most clicky and tactile feeling side buttons, followed by the Model O wireless, followed by the G Pro Superlight. But the Superlight, I wouldn't say that they feel mushy. They're just less tactile than the other two. Now, in terms of the mouse feet that I have on the Model O Wireless and the Viper Ultimate are both stock. I feel like they glide pretty decent, and between all three of them, I no longer have the stock mouse feet on the G Pro Superlight. I now have Tiger Arc 1s, which I feel like glide very good. But in terms of the stock experience between the three, I feel like the Model O Wireless has the best stock mouse feet, followed by the Viper Ultimate and then the G Pro Superlight. I don't feel like the G Pro Superlight stock feet were necessarily bottom of the barrel, but they weren't necessarily the greatest either. I definitely used them. I was like, you know, I definitely want to replace these. Where the Model O Wireless, I can replace them. It will be a little bit better, but I don't necessarily feel like it's a necessity. And then the Viper Ultimate, kind of the same thing. They're suitable, but I don't think that, you know, they're amazing either. You know, they're definitely usable. Whereas the Superlight, I was like, all right, you know, I used these for a week. I was really glad when I changed to aftermarket feet. Now, in terms of quality between the three, I haven't had any issues with my G Pro Superlight over the past, I'll say it's been almost 3 months that I've had it. I got it the second week of January, and this is now the end of May. So it's been like 2.5 months that I've had this one. Haven't had any issues. The battery life is absolutely insane, even though that most of the time I actually do charge this on a dock, which does cost extra. It's like $30 for a wireless charge. Is it $20 or $30? I want to say. For a wireless charging dock for the G Pro Superlight that I just have on my desk, I drop it on there. That's why I don't have the puck here. And, you know, charges it up. I don't have any battery issues, of course, now that I have that charging dock. The Model O Wireless actually does have USB Type-C. These other two mice have USB, micro USB, but the Model O Wireless does have USB Type-C. But sometimes, I don't know why it happens, but I do have battery issues with my Model O Wireless where I feel like it only lasts like a couple of hours, especially when I'm using it on Mac. For some reason, the power draw just is not the same as when I use it on Mac compared to when I use it on Windows. I don't know why, it's just something that I found that was really weird. The Razer Viper Ultimate, it has the charging dock. The battery life is really good if you don't use the RGB, but obviously having, you know, this really bright RGB light, as well as the RGB on the dock that looks really cool when you have it, you know, charging on it and whatnot. I just really like to use the charging dock. So, but I'm gonna say between the three of them, the battery life on the G Pro Superlight is gonna be the best, where you probably don't have to charge it for 3 weeks at a time. The Razer is gonna be next, where if you use it without the RGB, you can probably go a solid 1.5 to 2 weeks without charging it. But if you do have the RGB on and you don't put it back on the dock, it'll probably die about every 3 to 4 days. And then the Model O Wireless is going to be the worst in terms of the battery life, where about every 2.5 to 3 days with the RGB on 100%, it will die. In about 2 to 3 days, especially because the power saving on the Razer, in my opinion, is a little bit better than the power saving on the Glorious. And I have that weird issue when I use it with macOS, how the battery just drains really quickly, which is kind of strange. But between these three mice, I prefer the Logitech just because of the shape. 110%, I would pick this mouse over these two purely because of the shape. Because if we look at the hump in the middle of the mouse, it's fairly large. And I like that quite a bit because it just makes it so much more comfortable to use, especially for my hands. Like just my grip style, it just feels a lot more, you know, sure, I guess. You know, like my hand placement feels a little bit more normal when I grip the G Pro Superlight. And I feel like it just feels out a little bit better in the back of my hand, where the other two mice are a bit shorter. So, you know, I'm kind of missing, you know, that room from the mouse, I guess, in the back of my palm in comparison. Especially the Viper Ultimate, this one I really don't get any of that, where the Model O, I get just a tad of that. But the G Pro Superlight for me just fits the best between the three. I feel like they're all good. The price points we have to talk about, because this mouse is $80. These two mice are $150, but oftentimes you can't find the Viper Ultimate between, you know, $80 to $120, whether it be just the mouse by itself without the charging dock, or up to, I think I got the Viper Ultimate as well for $120 before with the charging dock, which is definitely not a bad deal. So with that being said, I would still pick between the three based on the size. Okay, like if you want a medium sized mouse, I will go with the Model O wireless. If you want a slightly smaller mouse than a Model O wireless but a similar shape and you prefer the better build quality and the charging dock, I would go with the Razer Viper. And then if you want, honestly, the top tier mouse with very good scroll wheel as well, and in my opinion, the better shape for larger hands, I would go with the Logitech Superlight. But personally, I got my new main. I don't really know what's gonna be next. Before it was the Rocat Burst Pro, and now I'm on the G Pro Superlight. I don't really think that I'll go back to a wired mouse as my main. But I don't know. Paracords are getting really good right now. W Paracords, he got some really interesting stuff coming out. I'll leave a link to his Twitter and his website in the description below if you want to check it out. And I'll leave a link specifically to a video that I've seen with his new cables that look pretty sick. That would also keep me open to using a wired mice as my main again. But wireless mice at this point are getting really good. I would say, you know, they're expensive. They're expensive, that's for sure. I mean, $150 for one mouse is kind of insane. $80 I feel like is the absolute fairest price between all of them. But if you have the cash and you're just after like your end game mouse, I feel like this one is gonna be the best between these two at least. But that's gonna be it for this video. Okay, G Pro Superlight's my favorite, then the Viper Ultimate is my second favorite, and then the Model O wireless is a good mouse. I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but it is a good mouse. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you guys are new to the channel as well. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Drop a comment on another comparison that you guys want to see next. What else should I do? I don't know. You guys let me know. I'll see you in the next one.